What's up, ladies and gentlemen of YouTube? B2988 coming at your levels again through the power of the internet, and you are listening or watching episode number 5 of the power of the internet. I didn't think I was going to make an episode again this soon, but I decided to do it because so many people seemed to enjoy the last episode. A good number of views, right? But that's not the metric that I'm most interested in. I'm most interested in how many people sat down and listened to the entire thing, made it to the end, saw the keyword that I include at the end of these videos, used it in their comment section, and let me know that this is the kind of content I want to see from you. And that's a good reason to want to film something. But the best reason to want to film it is because you had fun doing it. And I did so much. I like short form content. I like making short videos. I like clickbaiting and talking about the topic du jour and feeding the algorithm and doing all of that stuff. But most of the time when I try to do those videos, I try to go super edited and hot takes and character acting and all the YouTube stuff. But with this last episode of Power of the Internet, you know what I did? I was just myself. And I loved doing it. And I could not believe how much you guys loved it too. Also, a brand new audience has seen this series. We saw people coming in from the documentary. Asmon Gold, one of my favorite YouTubers, reacted to the documentary. He sent a bunch of people over, and lo and behold, for the first time in years, I'm gaining subscribers. Is that just purely from Asmon Gold? It's because I'm passionate about the content I made. I don't know. But I just wanted to get back in here, and I just wanted to film. I was excited to do it today. So I got a bunch of topics I want to talk about. Now, if you watched the last episode, I did not include chapters, and I should have. This time, if there's a topic that you get bored of and you want to skip ahead, check down below in the little time bar or the description section. You'll see ways to skip ahead to topics you might be more interested in. Also, I do want to talk about video games because I love video games. But I also want to talk about broader topics that might be for more general interest for you, but are extreme interest for me. And I want to hop into one of those right now. Southwest Airlines has decided they're going to start giving plus-size passengers like me a free extra seat. And boy, do I have some opinions on this. I tweeted out an opinion. But keep in mind, when I tweet or when I'm on the Locale podcast, it's pretty much in character, right? I'm trying to hype it up, trying to be an entertainer. Here, I don't mind just being myself, and I'll give you some real opinions. Back in 2011, I flew for the first time in a long time to go to something, I forget. PlayStation event, maybe. They flew me out to New York. Of course, we had to book a seat for the person I was traveling with because I needed assistant flying. Or there's no way I was going to be able to do that myself. At 600 pounds, good Lord, no. I barely do it now at 400. So it's very uncomfortable, right? Flying is not fun for anybody, but do not fly fat. That is a recipe for disaster. When I booked my seat, I already knew that several airlines required plus-size passengers to book a second seat. So I went ahead and booked a second one for me. So that meant I needed to book 3 flights. But, you know, it got expensive doing it that way, for sure. I got invited out to VidCon, for example, and VidCon would book a flight for me and a flight for my partner. They would not book a third flight for me, so I ended up paying for like 3 total flights in that situation. A lot of the times when other YouTubers were getting flown somewhere for free, I would end up having to chip in and pay more to get that extra seat for myself, and the trip would end up costing me money where skinnier YouTubers were getting there for free. That sucked, but that's just how it had to be when you're 600 pounds, right? And I'd always rather drive somewhere. I bought a 2021 Corolla hybrid to save off of gas. My previous car before that was a gas guzzler, you know, one of these big 2015 luxury vehicles, which I wrecked back in 2019. So I went ahead and just got the the hybrid so that I can drive to a lot of these things and save money. However, I think the idea of giving away a free plus-sized passenger seat is a good idea and concept. It seems very kind, it seems very humane, and it would make traveling easier for big people. And it's never going to be easy for a big person. I'm just going to be honest with you. But I do wonder if it's a fair policy. That's what I worry about. Is it fair to people who are 6'11"? Is it fair to like tall people? They're not getting extra leg room for free. They're not getting free upgrades to first class where there's more leg room, right? I like the idea of airlines accommodating big customers, but I like to see airlines accommodating everyone. Doesn't that make more sense? I mean, I'd like to think this is the first step in the right direction in a world where we start seeing airlines not being sky buses, not being, miserable experiences for everyone participating unless you can afford that first Casey Neistat style upgrade. But if you're flying business, if you're flying coach, oh my God, it is just unpleasant. I flew all the way to England on Keemstar's dime not too long ago. He only booked me one seat, so it was not crazy comfortable, and I didn't think about booking the second one. A second one would have been nice for me. It would have also been very nice for the person stuck next to me who didn't seem to complain. I apologize to them maybe 100 times in that 8-hour flight, but it would have been nice to have had a free second seat in that situation. I don't think most airlines are going to follow suit on this. And because airlines are about the bottom line, they have shrunk the seats, shrunk the legroom, packed in as many people as they can to maximize profit. They oversell the seats. They'll put you on standby. You'll end up sitting in an airport for an extra few hours to catch another flight, sometimes stay the night somewhere because they bump you. These companies are not about accommodation. These companies are not about making people comfortable. Southwest Airlines might be doing it for one small demographic of people. I shouldn't say small demographic of people, both in terms that we are a large demographic in body weight and in number. But I would just like to see them accommodating everybody. Is that an unreasonable request? I don't think it's a bad thing to start accommodating your passengers and starting with obese patients, obese passengers. Not a bad thing. Not a bad thing. I am a little annoyed that I spent all that extra money when I needed to fly, though. Can I be honest there? I'm annoyed at all that extra money I've had to spend over the years, but maybe now we can start saving money. But these companies will do one thing and one thing only, and don't you ever forget it. They're going to care about their bottom line. So every time they make a change like this, they're going to pass the cost on to everybody. If there's one empty seat on that airplane that fits 500 because there's a plus-size passenger on it, that might be one person got bumped because they oversold that flight. But it will I guarantee you they're not going to give up the lost profit. That's going to get transferred to every other ticket. They do this dynamic pricing thing already. You can't price compare. You can't hope for the best price. It's almost impossible to get a good deal while flying. It's all a bunch of hidden fees and secret fees. You don't know how they calculate what it costs. You just pay what it costs most of the time. You might be lucky to have an airline or extra two to choose from at your small airport in your area in a lot of places in the country. But a lot of us, we have to just go with what's there. We have to pay what they want. If they're giving away free seats, they're not giving up that lost profit. Everybody else in that plane is going to pay for it. And you might be a little more comfortable in the legroom. You might be a little more comfortable in the seat next to you. But it's going to be a lot less comfortable once everybody on that plane realizes you're the reason they pay $20 more. So, I don't know. At the end of the day, I just want this to work out well. I don't know that it will. And I don't know that this policy will stick around. Would it be a sign of positive things to come so that fat people and tall people and short people and skinny people all got to pay different prices and all got to have more comfort, and they widened the seats and they gave us more leg room and they made it more affordable to upgrade? Is that a possible future? Yeah, it's just real unlikely. This is probably a political PR move. And we know it is. And I don't think it'll last. I just had to talk about this one. McDonald's is adding a new location near you soon. And no, I don't mean the 19th McDonald's on the small strip in your hometown. I mean they're adding a brand new store. They'll probably still add another McDonald's. Just be warned. Because they want one every third business if they can help it, because of how they make money. But they're actually working on a new chain called CosMc. It's a new beverage concept. And I figure if we're going to talk about being obese, I'll talk about McDonald's as well. But this really is interesting to me. Recently, I've gotten into going to Starbucks every once in a while. Hot cocoa this time of year when you're out playing Pokemon Go. Excellent. Also, the refresher lines, they've got these pink drinks. It's actually not too bad for you. Some nutrition to it, right? And tastes good. Lasts for a while. Me and my girlfriend will share one when we're out playing Pokemon. It's a lot of fun. $5. Drink lasts you a while. Tastes good. Feels good. A little bit of nutrition in it, right? That said, that's what they're hoping to compete with, is Starbucks. And you can look at the menu. You got sour cherry energy blast, berry hibiscus sourade, blueberry ginger boost, island pick me up punch. These are their signature galactic boosts from their new restaurant called CosMc. By the way, I'll remind you once an episode, that sound is the sound of somebody subscribing to the YouTube channel. Maybe you'll choose to do it as well. And if you choose to do it while I'm recording, your name is going to pop up there as well. Might be worth clicking the button. Let's see if you show up in the next episode. They've got iced teas and lemonades, slushes and frappes. Of course, they're going to do the coffee thing as well. My first thought was originally, why not just do this at the original restaurant? They do a lot of this already. But I get wanting to expand and change the name. But especially when you look at how McDonald's makes its money, McDonald's, the company, does not make its money by selling you these iced black teas or their Oreo McFlurries. Oh, I wonder if the ice cream machine will work at this new store. Ooh, that's exciting. Oh, could you imagine going to this beverage store and finding out that their beverage machine doesn't work? Oh, how exciting. Excellent job, McDonald's. But, you know, they don't make their money by selling you their cookie butter McPops and apple cinnamon McPops and mixed bag McPops and hazelnut McPops. What the hell is a McPop? Weird name. Anyway, McDonald's is a landlord. They convince people to franchise. Then the franchisee rents the land. This is what the movies have said. This is what certain articles I've read has said. This is what certain YouTube videos say. Again, don't trust anything you hear, any YouTube video or a podcast. Do your own research. I have not done my own research, but allegedly they make their money by renting to franchisees. So it makes sense that they want to have a second type of store so they can have twice the land to rent to franchisees. The franchisee is the one that makes the money off of the back of a half and half, sweet tea, a lemonade, a ginger boost, a chai frappe burst. This is making me thirsty. This is making me want to go get my pink drink and play Pokemon. But McDonald's is just the worst. You may disagree. Their French fries, fine. I know my friend kid behind the camera loves their French fries. Enjoy, Michael. I'd rather go to Five Guys any day of the week. I'd rather go to Burger King for a burger. For me, McDonald's is kind of the most generic brand. It's not horrible. It's not good, man. There's nothing good about what they're doing. So if you're going to try to compete to Starbucks by having your blueberry ginger boost with burst orbs in it, I don't know if you can. Starbucks is always going to be classier and nicer and better and smells better, and probably, Starbucks pays their people pretty well, considerably better than a McDonald's does. So you get happier workers and better customer service. You'll go to McDonald's. I guess you'll go to CosMc's for the price. Maybe it'll cost half as much as Starbucks, and that's a good reason to get through the door. I guess that's how Dunkin' survives, right? Terrible product, but cheap price. So, what a weird thing to want to try to take on Starbucks. There's like 5 Starbucks in my town, and you want to try to take on all 5. Go nuts. But just the food doesn't look very good here. The food at Starbucks is terrible too. Actually, don't go to Starbucks to eat. Go to Starbucks to drink. I guess at least at CosMc's you'll be able to get a creamy avocado tomatillo sandwich and an egg McMuffin and sausage McMuffin. All of this is stuff they can warm up in a microwave, basically. This is all stuff they'll assemble and warm up in a microwave for you. The same thing they do at Starbucks. Don't buy food at these places, please. But this is coming to a town near you, so get ready for even more McDonald's gentrification in your small town. Here's the topic that I was absolutely not going to do a normal video about, but I don't mind talking about it here on the podcast. And I do like to talk about YouTube drama, and I do want to reserve that mostly for the Locale podcast, but because this one touches a couple of friends of mine, I wanted to talk about it a little bit. Now, those of you who don't know, let me get you clued in. I'm talking about Gerard, the Completionist. And I guess it was about a month ago now, Mudahar and Carl Jobst. I knew Mudahar, of course, he works with me on the Locale podcast, and I've gone around and around with him many times. Then you've got Carl Jobst, who is brand new to me. I had no clue who this person was. But they basically somehow discovered that the Completionist had a charity designed to raising money for Alzheimer's patients and Alzheimer's research. And I was aware of this tangentially through the Completionist's promotion of it. He had a little game jam that he played every year, live stream thing called Indieland, where he had a bunch of mutual friends on there. Well, I say friends, but mostly acquaintances, people I've done conventions with and hung out after conventions, that type of person. But also huge celebrities and huge YouTubers and huge names and huge game developers and all kinds of crazy people helping raise money for this. Well, it turns out that unfortunately, the money that had been raised for this charity was still sitting in a bank account somewhere. It had not made it to the charities that it was supposed to make it to. And we're not talking about like a year or 2 years or 3 years or 5 years or 7 years. We're talking like almost 10 years. They had been raising money for 10 years, and the money had not found its way into a charity's pocket. So Mudahar and Carl confronted the Completionist about this during, I think, a Discord phone call and discussed it with him. And I guess the goal there was to pressure Gerard into making sure that money got into the right hands. And the way they knew about all of this was fairly simple. When you're doing like a charity thing like this, is recognized by the government, all that paperwork is publicly accessible. You can look into that charity if you want to. And certainly someone who doesn't like the Completionist decided to do that, pulling every thread, and they found this particular thread to pull, right? Now, that said, it looks like everything that Gerard did was probably legal. I've heard some YouTubers say that. People who have a better education and understanding of these types of things than I do have said that. So it is possible or likely that is the truth. And I think there was this perfect scenario where Gerard was made aware of the situation, decided to donate the money, donated a little bit of his own money, apologized, gave his YouTube channel a rest of maybe 3 months, 6 months, and came back and started making content again, and everything would have been great. And here's something Gerard has said in all of this drama. His family has other businesses as well. He doesn't have to stick completely to content design. He doesn't have to be a YouTuber. him and his family have other things going on, and he might be able to just rely on that for income and everything else. And that would have been great. That would have been amazing. That's what you would want for somebody in this situation. Unfortunately, that's not how all of this played out. And I think it's very important that you understand before I say anything else, I am not in a position where I can judge another human being for their actions. I cannot judge another human being for, I don't think very many of us are in a position where we can say this person is good and that person is bad. But I certainly am not. I certainly am not. I can't talk about how you spend your money. I can't talk about the depth of character, and I have no intention of doing that here. What I am an expert in is responding to criticism and doing it very badly. And I can tell you, Gerard did it very, very badly. His formulated response was, on paper, not a bad idea. Clapped back, showed the receipts, threatened to sue Carl and Mudahar and other people. The tough guy thing was not going to play well. And I don't know, maybe he had a lawyer telling him that's what he had to say, what he had to do. But in terms of public relations, I mean, that was a career ender. You know, there was coming back from just putting the money in the right hands and making things better. There really was. But as it is now, I think it's just such a sad situation. You know, I met Gerard. I've hung out with Gerard at conventions briefly. You know, that's it. I'm not his friend. I have some mutual friends, like I said, people I do conventions with, and I don't want to burn any bridge there, but I also just have to say what it is. It's just a horribly sad situation to take that money and to hold on to it when it could have been doing some good. Might be legal, but not the best way to handle it. Then to have said in these videos that, oh, the money has gone to the right places, and we always make sure that it goes to the right places, and we're one of the biggest charitable contributors, but it looks like on paper, at least, those contributions might not have been getting made yet, even if they had every intention of doing it. It's just so heartbreaking. There's one clip that I find especially heartbreaking. It just started going around yesterday. And before I play it, let me remind you, it could just be AI, right? You never know with these things anymore. Sounds like it might be Gerard. Sounds like it might be for that phone call. We'll have to see. But keep in mind, before you listen to this, use a grain of salt. But let's listen to it.
The last thing I want to do is ruin the legacy of my family, of my mom and her memory, especially because this is such a personal thing for the last 25 years of my life. You know, I'm not trying to be like, do you guys want money to help me hide this? It's not what this is at all. I'm just asking from a humanity perspective of like, if I am the target of this, I have 20 mouths to feed. I have sponsors. I have a business. I'm trying to make video games. I'm trying to get out of content creation so I don't have to worry about YouTube anymore and do better things in the world. And I just know because of my track record of things like G4 exploding, me being friends with John Tron when he was a racist, you know, I've been a part of like, you know, Pro Jared, like pulling one thread about the charity thing is going to upheave my entire life in a way that scares the living crap out of me. And I don't want to go home tonight and tell everyone, hey, there is a gigantic thing coming to claim my career and you all have to close down and find somewhere else to do. I know this is shitty me to say this. I'm not trying to ask for sympathy or anything, but this kind of stuff, I mean, I've been following your guys' stuff for years. The stuff with Billy Mitchell, Carl, the stuff that you've done, Mudo, with tons of content creators over the years. Like, there's no nuance to this. People are going to see this and they're going to immediately go, that Gerard guy who's been nice to a bunch of people actually isn't very nice overall. Fuck him. Let's get rid of him.
That clip, to me, is utterly heartbreaking if real. And I believe it to be real. And I've heard a lot of interpretations by other YouTubers and people on Twitter as to what that clip means. But I'll tell you what I think it is. I think it's a man who knows he's screwed up, who knows that Munhar and Carl are very good at their job, knows that their audience is going to eat this up, as they should, that they're all going to be very critical of him, and it's going to be a huge blow to Gerard as a person, the companies that he's involved in, the family, and it is a huge blow to all of those things. It's also a huge blow to the charities that you're supposed to be raising money for. You know, it's a huge blow to all of the people who've been on the show. It's a huge blow to the people that Gerard mentions, some of his friends, John Tron and Pro Jared and Wood beat him up. So I've seen him sticking up for the guy, you know. It's a bad situation for the entire gaming community. It's a bad situation for Alzheimer's charities. And of course, it's also a bad situation for Gerard and the people that work for him and the people that work with him. And of course, for the charities themselves. It's a sad, sad situation. And I just hear the fear and regret and misery in that guy's voice, and it just... I do know that there was a perfect scenario where Gerard owned up to everything, donated the money, donated some of his personal money, and moved on and apologized and gave his YouTube channel a rest and came back after 6 months, and things would have been better. At this point, I don't know if that's a possibility. If I were to talk to Gerard today, and obviously I wouldn't, and why would he want to hear from me, right? But if I were to talk to Gerard, my advice to him in his situation, based on my personal experiences, would be to take a year off if you can afford to do it. And I think he can with his other businesses and his family and everything else, right? Take a year off for content creation. It's going to suck for the people that work for you, but that's the bed you've made, and they have to lay in it, right? And in that year, do some really intense therapy and soul searching and get better. And come back in a year. Because look at all the people that have rebooted their YouTube channels. Sure, people that he mentioned, John Tron, who basically fled off the scene and got quiet for a really long time and then came back and made content again eventually, right? Pro Jared took a break, gathered the receipts, came back, clapped back hard, went back to making content. People don't watch as much of his content as they used to, but people do watch his stuff. I watch his stuff. I like what Jared's producing these. Now in the 90s, if you haven't watched that show, go watch that. It's really good. It's really a lot of fun to look back 20 years to what video games are coming out now 20 years ago. How cool is that, right? Good job, Pro Jared. Shane Dawson has managed to come back. I mean, the worst of the worst have managed to come back. Right? So, I don't know. I think at the end of the day, Gerard made his situation worse by the way that he responds, and I think any other future responses are going to make things worse unless he just takes the break. But what a sad situation for the gaming community. What a sad situation for the charities. What a sad situation for everyone involved. What a sad situation for YouTube in general. It's just heartbreakingly sad. I am glad of one thing and one thing only. I'm glad the money is where it's supposed to be now. And I hope that it's doing some good. You know, I tell the story every once in a while, and I'll tell it here. But my grandmother had Alzheimer's, and it basically is what killed her. It's my understanding that the way she died was Alzheimer's got so advanced, her body ceased to function. Is that accurate? Is that a thing that can happen? I don't know. I was very young when it happened, but I tell the story all the time, and I normally tell it in comedian mode. You know, I wrote this kind of for on stage when I thought I might be a stand-up comedian one day. So forgive me, it's edgy, but I'll tell you the story. My grandmother had Alzheimer's, and it was pretty advanced by the time I was, aware of her existence because, I was a child. And one day we were down in Kingsport, Tennessee, and my grandparents lived in Pound, Virginia. And it was like an hour and a half drive. And back then, you didn't have a cell phone. You couldn't text. You had to call from a payphone. My mom called from a payphone. Hey, Daddy, is today a good day to come see you and Mama? And, he's like, yeah, come on up. So we drove the 90 minutes or so that it took to get there. And By the time we got there, my grandmother had an episode. She was having a good day apparently, but ended up being an episode day. My grandfather got her, in the shower, got her clean, got her underwear on her, was putting her pearls on her, and my grandmother got it into her head that my grandfather was trying to kill her. And my grandfather had a bit of a sordid history, so I don't blame her. But the Alzheimer's was getting in the way, so she decided that she didn't want to get killed, so she went to the kitchen to look for the knives. Now, at that point, all the real knives are under lock and key, which is what you have to do when you have somebody with dementia in the house, right? But she gathered up the butter knives, and she took them out in the garden, her flower garden, to start burying them. And so here's the scene when we arrive. We pull up, and there's my grandmother in her underwear, out in the rain, covered in mud, burying these butter knives in her flower garden. My grandfather standing on the porch shouting at her, "Altamay, get your ass in the house right now. You're going to catch your death of cold." My grandmother shouting back, "No, Carl, you try to kill me. I ain't going to let you." And I don't know. I don't know how old I was, 7, 8, 9. But I saw this scene, and my brain made a snap decision, and I started laughing at it. And if you know me, I have a real dark sense of humor. And this is how I got it. I started laughing, and my mother did not appreciate it. She whipped around for the front seat and said, "What the hell are you laughing at?" And I said, "Isn't she burying butter knives? Maybe she's trying to grow butter cups." Well, that's when I decided, apparently, that no matter how dark a part of life is, no matter how awful it is, have fun with it, right? Laugh at the darkest parts of life. Laugh at the darkest parts of your life, I should say. It's a little worse to laugh at other people's situation, obviously. But, I don't know. The darkest parts of life, you either face them with fear or you face them with love. And I think laughter is a form of love. I think a lot of people, when they see me laughing at the dark parts of life, they think I'm being a cynic. They think I'm making fun of something. They think I'm making fun of the people involved or the people hurting. That's not what I'm doing, man. It's not who I am. I'm laughing because there's a joy to be had even in the worst parts of life. My girlfriend the other day, she had to go to the dentist. And after the dentist, she was very ill. And she was throwing up in a trash can over and over and over again. I think it was from the gas they gave her at the dentist office. And she looked over at me, and with a smile on her face, she looks at me, she's like, "Well, this is hell." And then just goes right back to vomiting. And I'm telling you, I knew I met my soulmate, my soup snake, when she was laughing at her own misfortune just as hard as I've laughed at my own misfortune. Find somebody that can laugh at life with you. Find somebody who can laugh at the darkest parts with you, and you'll probably be doing okay. But every comedian, all of them, we all laugh because of how dark life is. That's why so many of us, a comedian is much more talented than I could have ever been. I'm not even really a comedian. I'm just some fat weird guy, right? But all of us want for you to escape the world for just a little bit and feel a little bit better. And no one more so than Jim Carrey.
When I was about 28, after a decade as a professional comedian, I realized one night in LA that the purpose of my life had always been to free people from concern, just like my dad. The only one I hadn't freed was myself, and that's when my search for identity deepened. I wondered who I'd be without my fame. Who would I be if I said things that people didn't want to hear? Or if I defied their expectations of me? And that peace that we're after lies somewhere beyond personality, beyond the perception of others, beyond invention and disguise, even beyond effort itself. You can join the game, fight the wars, play with form all you want, but to find real peace, you have to let the armor go. Your need for acceptance can make you invisible in this world. Don't let anything stand in the way of the light that shines through this form. Risk being seen in all of your glory.
As always with these, I like to save the best for last. But in this case, I also wanted to save it towards the end because only the people that need to hear it should hear it. That's how I feel. If you're out there in a position where you need to hear it, you'll have found this, I think. Or maybe it'll just be entertaining for you because you're a dedicated listener, but maybe you need to hear this. Jim Carrey is one of my favorite comedians, and you probably know him from dark comedies like The Truman Show or Cable Guy. You might know him from his time in Living Color. You might know him from, I don't know, playing Man on the Moon. In Man on the Moon, he played Andy Kaufman. What I'd like to think is my spirit animal, the person I rise to try to be every single day. I wish I could be Andy Kaufman. I just lack the talents. But I watched an episode of Jerry Seinfeld's Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee. I watched this back in 5 years ago. Great show. If you've never seen it, watch it. I think it's all available on YouTube now. It's definitely available on Netflix, I think. But if you get a chance to watch it, give it a watch. All the episodes are great, but the Jim Carrey episode is insane. And I became aware at that moment that Jim Carrey had, for all intents and purposes, lost the plot. He was on the other side of the planet. And I started looking into it. His episode, I thought it was all performative, what he was doing on Cars, Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee. It was not. That's just who Jim is now. And it's fascinating. And I'll tell you what broke his brain. That's not the right word, because I don't think his brain is broken. But I'll tell you what broke his brain, what changed Jim Carrey, was playing Andy Kaufman in that film. There's an entire documentary based on his experiences going through that. And you should consider watching it as well. But if nothing else, watch the video that I have on screen right now. Jim Carrey is not crazy. Interviews and behavior explained. But I want to give you my interpretation of what happened to Jim Carrey. Because I've had a taste, the smallest taste of what Jim has had. I hope to be Jim Carrey one day. I hope to be this off the plot, if I can. I genuinely do. So Jim is under the impression that he is God. But that's not crazy, because Jim is also under the impression that you are God. And that we are all God. And the air that we are breathing is God. And the ground we walk on, and the food that we eat, and the thoughts that we have, and the emotions we feel are all God. It's all God. Merry Christmas to the Christians out there. For the record, if this is offensive to you, there's a reason, and we'll explain why it's offensive to you, but it shouldn't be, because Christ is all part of it too. You know who agrees with Jim Carrey? Most Buddhists. Jesus Christ. Pretty much most religions. Most enlightened people. People who have meditated on it, or woken up one day with enlightenment, or have gone through the treatments to get them there, with medications or whatever. People with near-death experiences. You can look it all up. This is all over YouTube. I found this rabbit hole and I went deep into it after my experiences. And I agree with Jim. And I agree with Jim because I ended up working with both a spiritual shaman as well as traditional therapist at the same time. You saw it in this documentary I made, and there is going to be an extended clip that I hope to get to you eventually that shows all of the positive, good stuff that came from that experience. But in my experience, I left this planet. I went to the other side of the universe, and I became that God again for a brief period of time, and then came back here with the knowledge of how all of this is supposed to work. And it has allowed me to approach everything with love instead of fear. Because I learned, well, as Jim will say, the Jim Carrey character does not exist. And in fact, never did. And I do genuinely believe the Steve Williams character does not exist and never did. I think of it as like a role-playing game. I grew up playing Dungeons & Dragons, video games. At some point, we chose, you chose to roll up your character, you, the person you are. You chose to be the person that you are, born at the time that you were, to the parents that you were, to the family that you were, to the situation that you were, to face the challenges that you're currently facing. You picked it. You chose it. I picked this. You picked that. Jim picked that. When you approach it from that, you now know, oh, life isn't fair, except it is. You made the rules, man. Well, I don't know why this is happening, except you do, because you wanted it to. You're ready to face this, fight this. This is the challenge. It stops being this insurmountable thing that you can't overcome. It becomes this thing that it's a video game. You're here to play it. You're here to beat the level. You're here to attack it and win. It's the entire thing. There's something else that really backs this up. It's called the egg theory. Kurzgesagt or Kurzgesagt, something like that. Huge YouTube channel, millions of views every upload. They have a video called the egg theory. And the egg theory is based on this. You are a god. And you have created this realm to live inside of, like an egg or a playground or a simulation is what Elon Musk would call it, or whatever. We have created this existence, this reality, to experience over and over again. And you'll experience it as every single person that ever existed. And you're doing this so that you can become a better God. That means that every person you've ever been kind to, you are being kind to yourself. And for every person that you have been cruel to, you have been cruel to yourself. And I'll tell you, maybe if even that isn't true, what a great way to live. What a wonderful way that would be to live. You know who recommended living that way? Jesus Christ was one of them. Buddha. Most people, honestly, most of us would say that's the way you should approach how you treat other human beings. Jim Carrey certainly would. So I think looking into the situation that Jim Carrey finds himself in, he is now proselytizing this. That we are all one, we are all connected, we are all the same entity, we are all the same unit. We are all in this together. But you're also into it individually. And the way that you're into it individually is that at some point you took your godlike status, your godlike nature, and you made yourself as small as you could. You took away all of your power and all of your knowledge and made yourself Stephen Williams, Jim Carrey, John Doe, whoever you are, whoever's listening right now. You chose to be you. You took away all that knowledge and all that power and decided to be you to experience this. How cool is that? How cool is that? That a God woke up one day and chose to be you. Why? I don't know. To experience what you've experienced, to learn what you've learned, to overcome what you're overcoming. That's why, I guess. And I know you'll do it. And I know you'll learn the lessons that need to be learned. I know that you'll overcome the things that need to be overcome. I know you're going to kick life's ass. Maybe not every step of the way. Sometimes life kicks back and it kicks hard. But I think you wake up on the other side. And I think for one brief moment, we all get to see each other. And we get to high-five each other and say, hey, you did your best. It was a tough game. Did you learn anything? All right. Well, this time, let's go back in and get it right. So with all that said, that would be episode number 5 of Power of the Internet. I think it's going to be the Christmas episode. I don't think I'll have time to set in here and record another one. I get to travel for Christmas with my family. I got a little thing I'm doing with a friend this week. It's a busy week. But I'm excited to rise to those challenges as well. And for those of you who do celebrate Christmas, I hope you're going to have an amazing Christmas. You deserve it. Whether it's Kwanzaa or Hanukkah, or even if you don't celebrate at all, I hope this winter season is spectacular for you, because that's what you deserve. And if it's not, and it's got all of the challenges and all of the lessons that you need to learn with it, I hope that you kick those challenges' asses. And if you can't, I hope you learn the lessons those challenges are designed to teach you. And know that if you approach this life with love instead of fear, well, it's just so much more fun. And that's going to be the key word, love. Tell me what you love. Do you love this time of year? Do you love summer? Do you love yourself? Do you love your family? Do you love Christmas? What do you love? Tell me in the comments section down below. And I know you made it all the way to the end of this episode. As always, guys, thanks for watching. I love you very much. And I will speak with you again soon.